Wusstest du, dass Zehntausende deutsche Unternehmen bereits Shopify nutzen? Von innovativen Start-ups bis hin zu Familienunternehmen mit langer Tradition? Die Commerce-Plattform Shopify revolutioniert Millionen von Unternehmen weltweit. Mit Shopify kannst du Produkte über beliebige Kanäle verkaufen. Ob persönliches POS-System oder umfassende E-Commerce-Plattform. Auch Social Media und Marktplätze wie Facebook, Instagram und eBay werden unterstützt. Dank der ständig wachsenden Auswahl innovativer Funktionen und des zuverlässigen technischen Supports ist es ganz einfach, dein Business mit Shopify aufzubauen. Ob Produktpräsentation oder Bestell- und Zahlungsabwicklung. Shopify bietet alles, was du für die Verwaltung deines Business brauchst. So kannst du dich ganz auf dein Business konzentrieren. Shopify kostenlos ausprobieren und dein Business voranbringen. Shopify.de/try besuchen. Also shopify.de/try. Made for Germany. Powered by Shopify.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the NESG Radio. My name is Sheriff Adir Bigbe, and I am a Communications and Advocacy Associate with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Today, we'll be discussing a very interesting topic, which is building high-performing team through workforce nutrition. And we have with us here today, Miss Loveline Agbu Gabriel. Miss Loveline, she's a development practitioner and has over 13 years of experience working in the development sector. She presently works with the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, and she has worked in various capacities, especially, food-related matters. And at present, she's the project lead on food fortification and workforce nutrition. You are welcome, Miss Loveline.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please, can you explain, the correlation between, adequate diet, eating well, that is proper nutrition, and an employee, of any organization, performing well?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sheriff. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss this very important topic that actually affects everybody, because here now, we're all workers. So when we talk about workforce nutrition, nobody is exempted, especially the active population of Nigeria, which of course causes from age 25 to like 64, 65 when people get to retire. They're actively engaged in the workforce, whether formally or the informal sector. Now, you would agree with me that it takes a healthy person in the first place to be able to work. And a healthy person is not magic. It's about what we consume. It's about the kind of food, the quality of food that we take in. Now, as workforce, the healthier meals they take determines how healthy they are, and how healthy they are determine how consistently productive the workforce will be, because you will agree with me that if you're healthy, number of sick leaves will be reduced. And then all those accidents that happen, work-related accidents, will not be there because there'll be high level of concentration. And then the morale of the worker is high. And if all of these things are in place, you would agree with me that productivity will be high. And when we say productivity high, it's not just in the products that come out, but at the end of the day, a very high return on investment, because when workers are sick, they take off time to take care of themselves. That is man-hour lost. And that is money when it comes to business. So the correlation, I don't even from a blind person's point of view, you know that when you are healthy, you're able to work better.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that response. So we are looking at it also from the perspective you talked about. There's a high level of correlation between a well-nourished worker and their performance in the workplace. But now we are looking at going into specifics. If an organization has a well-nourished workforce, like every employee is well-nourished, how does that translate to them performing well as a team?
Yeah. Okay, so for people within the actively production age, you know that at least 1/3 of their day is spent within the work area. And when we say 1/3 of this day, just to bring it so that we can relate practically with it, is that those 8 hours you spend are the most active hours of the day. Now, whatever you eat, whatever you do around that time, generally defines your health status, your nutrition status. Now, if a workforce is generally healthy, all those drags, all those excuses here and there because people want to calm down, will not be there. And the truth is that if people are strong, active, and their morale is high, whatever task you give to do would be done within the time. Like we say in our local balance, time.
Exactly.
So during that time, the times you still hear, oh, I have a headache, I want to rest, oh, this. And then when somebody is not performing at the time, either of two things happen. It's either someone else takes over their own part of the job for that day. Now, when I say someone else, maybe someone on standby, which now is equal to more pay.
That's true.
For another person going out of the employer's pocket. Or a colleague within the same line of production takes on the job of two people, which is now stressful on the other person. And stress levels, they make or mar any form of work. So when employers are adequately nourished, as a team, you see they're able to manage their stress levels better. And they're able to encourage themselves in the work. As such, more production, better productivity generally. Actually, there's no way you can run around all these things. It's just the same circle. Just good food, good knowledge, first of all. Because if people don't understand what is good and what is bad, remember that we're all adults now. We grew up from a certain kind of background, certain kind of ethnicity, that certain foods are just what is obtainable. And not just obtainable, has come to be preferable, irrespective of their nutritional level or content. Hence, education is key. Because if people don't understand that this thing you love so much, you're chased so nicely, does not give you the adequate nutrition that you need to add this, you need to add that, they won't even understand what to look for. They won't be able to even generate the demand for better nutritious meals. And that hampers productivity even as a team. Because the truth is, if somebody is always falling ill and you are always covering in for them, it's just a matter of time. You start, because the fact that the person is ill does not mean that the person's pay will be cut and added to you. So you see, it's...
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Ma, for that. At least we now know that our audience can see that there's a direct correlation between, adequate nutrition, eating well, and getting the best out of your employees. Okay, so definitely, especially for MSMEs, implementing a comprehensive workforce nutrition program, in the workplace can be very daunting. It may appear easier, for corporate organizations to implement workforce nutrition programs. So we are looking at it now from the perspective of what are the easy ways, easy to implement strategies, workforce nutrition strategies that MSMEs and even corporate organizations that intend on, adopting workforce nutrition programs in their organizations. What are the easy strategies that they can employ?
Okay, so the first thing is for them to even understand the context of this whole workforce nutrition conversation. Because if they do not understand the context, talking about the 4 pillars, then whatever level at which the business is, it may be a little difficult. Now, when I say the 4 pillars, talking about good food, healthy food and snack at work, some will say healthy food, snack, and water at work. Mm-hmm. Then creating like separate spaces for, for eating. And then looking at or taking deliberate steps to see that even if you can't provide food for your staff because of the level of your organization, but there's certainly a means through which these workers get food around, like street food vendors and all of that. So the number one step is, after understanding these pillars and how they work, the challenges and all of that, number one is to make sure that this nutrition education, the awareness around it is created both for the staff and for the food vendors themselves. And then coming into some form of agreement or an understanding of the sort of combination of food that these vendors should offer. Because even in construction site, once construction starts in a place, no matter how little, somehow food vendors get to know and they mount a stand around them. So just to have that clear understanding, the sort of things they should bring, and then the people who are going to be patronizing, which is the staff, to understand why eating a certain combination of food will work. Because that's the only way I can think of for a growing organization. Like you said, those who are already established, they understand the value of it socioeconomically, physically, mentally, and all. And of course, financially. So because of that, those ones make deliberate effort that even if they cannot provide the meals directly, they can outsource and are in control of the kind of food that come in control of the menu and the environment within which these foods are cooked. That's for established organizations. But for small companies, just like you mentioned, it's the only way. So it's coming into some form of understanding with food vending business owners just around the area. It's the only way. But it cannot thrive without the right education.
Thank you very much. So you just talked about education now, and education is always important. It's something we need to constantly do. So you work with the civil societies and legislative advocacy center, and you obviously have done a whole lot of advocacy, as regards workforce nutrition and all various other, areas and in different sectors. So with what you have learned, doing advocacy in these places, what are the advocacy measures that you think we should do as a people, to encourage organizations, especially small and medium-scale enterprises, to adopt workforce nutrition?
Thank you very much. Actually, whenever I think about this whole topic, that's what goes through my head. Because there is no particular framework that you will pick that talks about workforce nutrition. We do work around food fortification. Yes, at least we have a regulation on that sits with NAFDAC. But for workforce nutrition, you cannot pinpoint a particular legislation or regulation or policy. The only thing that has happened is that there are bits and pieces of these 4 components in different areas. Now, luckily, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, they have done some form of policy analysis and have picked out certain components that exist in different, policy documents that speaks to this 4 pillars of workforce nutrition. Take, for example, healthy food at work. There's no, like already said, there's no particular legal framework to hold on to. However, if you look at the agricultural sector food security and nutrition strategy of 2016 to 2025, which by the way is 2 years to expire, that's the only way that you can see certain pointers around regulation around preparing the food, heating, consuming meals, and all of that within the workplace and factory setting. Now, how many of us even know about that? How many Nigerians know about that? How many employers know about it? Because it's scattered everywhere. Now, if you go to the second bit that talks about nutrition, education, it's just within the national policy and strategy and strategic plan on action on prevention of and control of non-communicable diseases. That one talks about health promotion. You can find that in 5.2 of that document, and dietary advice and all of that. These companies are busy. How will they start going here, pick this, going there, pick this? Will they even employ a policy analyst, a policy analyst who will look at all this to pick out, And with that, enforcement becomes an issue. Now, when we talk about health checks, there is no particular one except where you talk about the civil service rule and all of that talks about compulsory health checks before the person is employed, those medical filing and all of that. And then the last pillar, which talks about breastfeeding support, is also in the civil service, like ILO. International label, which of course, yes, as a country within the Nigeria, the labor is there where it talks about the maternity leave, talks about break time for nursing mothers to either express or go and breastfeed, which for other sectors they say 30 minutes twice within the day for the mother to either go and express or breastfeed the child. But that is supposed to be outside the normal work break time. While for government offices, 2 hours. So 1 hour, 1 hour each, twice a day. So you see, these bits are just everywhere. And getting a policy analyst who now in every organization, every company, to look at the various areas I talk about it, then to start enforcing it will be a challenge. So the advocacy, therefore, will be an opportunity to, harmonize all of this and have it sit in one document, either as a regulation, as a policy, of course, it will be under the Ministry of Labor and Productivity. So that this becomes clear to all these companies, and then enforcement measures will be there, and of course, deterrence for non-compliance, and even the staff themselves, the employees themselves, will be able to have a moral justification or a legal backing to be able to demand for this to be provided. So that's the area that the advocacy can be around, and that's on the one side. On the other side is there are companies who are capable of doing this, but are not doing it. Probably because, one, they say where there is no law, there is no offense. Not as if there is no law as it stands. It's everywhere, but they can claim that they're not aware. The way people can get... So the other leg of advocacy is to, reach out to these organizations and suggest to them ways and companies that are already practicing this, whether fully or, partially, so that they can learn from, and do the same thing, because these are Nigerians. And statistics have shown that a high percentage of Nigerians are anemic. And workforce nutrition is one major way that anemia can be reduced among active population. Remember, it is within this population that people that are within the reproductive age If a mother is anemic, the baby should bring out...
chance to be anemic or stunted growth. Yeah.
Exactly. So you see the cycle. The cycle. Other times, people have been focusing so much on children and then grew up a bit to, involve the women where they reach them through the antenatal process and all of that. But how about women who have not even reached the antenatal process yet, who are still trying to conceive, or who are still growing and are just starting up families, So it is important to look in that direction, and then for CSOs and the media, our own is to, put it out there. Put it out there. And this also comes back, putting it out there also comes back to NOA. Of course, they have to do it in partnership with their sister organization because they are the mouthpiece of the government to put it out there. Because if people don't know, they won't even be able to demand within their workspaces.
Okay, we've heard a lot about the Civil Society Legislative and Advocacy Center and, about all the activities that you guys engage in. So for the sake of our audience and the general public that don't know much about what you do, would like you to talk about it, especially the third-party advocacy that involves the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, eHealth Africa, and the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so CISLAC, like most people know it, is the acronym for Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Now, CISLAC is a non-governmental, not-for-profit organization. And we work around information sharing, policy and legislative advocacy, capacity building, especially for state actors and civil society. Now, for state actors, so that they understand, because they know these things, to bring to their mind again and again and again the consequences of specific issues that we talk about, and also ways they can make things better. And then to civil society, because CISLAC alone cannot go so far. The idea, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, so that we have, a lot of people engage, multiplicity of, voices on the issue, particularly for collective impact. Now, CISLAC is also the national chapter for Transparency International in Nigeria, the platform through which the CPI is usually released every year, where they rank which country is most corrupt among the 180 countries that are usually surveyed. And CISLAC as an organization works programmatically in 5 different areas. And then we always say that we have 6 areas of our work, but the 6th one is institutional strengthening, so that we're strong enough to be able to do all that we do. So the first area of our work has to do with supporting democratic governance, where we do everything we do around elections, good governance, and all. Then the second one, which is more like our mainstay, is public finance management. That is anti-corruption work generally. So even though most of what we do is accountability, but we have a central point for all our anti-corruption related work. Then the third area of our work has to do with security and IDP issues, while the fourth has to do with environment and conservation of nature. Now, the 5th programmatic area has to do with health, human capital development, and social inclusion, which is under the area of the work that anything health falls under, which is where the third-party advocacy campaign comes in. Now, over the years, we've done a lot of work in all these areas. I don't know if I want to start boring you with all of that. But you can see our footprint in areas like the NAITI Act, FOI Act, where part of the people pushed the National Tobacco Control Act, and gender bill and all those things. CISLAC participated actively in that, contributed to all that work. Even the open government partnership is something that CISLAC does very well, and CISLAC has been part of the National Steering Committee for OGP since it started till now that we've moved on to the National Working Committee on that. Now, focusing on the third-party advocacy work. Okay, so before I get into that, within the health space, we contributed to pushing for the implementation of the National Health Act and having the primary health care development agencies in states like Katsina, Kaduna, Kano, and all of that, Jigawa. So I'm saying contributing because there's no one organization that could have done all on their own. And then we've also had a lot of programming around nutrition, where we had engagement across 11 northern states. Child and family health is something we've done for long, and of course we cannot take out nutrition from that whole gamut of work. And most recently, we worked, before the third-party advocacy, we worked around severe acute malnutrition advocacy, where we're advocating for funding for the CMAM, that is Community Management of Acute Malnutrition, and all of that, which the third-party advocacy work is more like building on. Now, when you talk about nutrition generally, people just think about people who are looking thin, malnourished. However, there is something that is bedeviling virtually everybody, which is micronutrient deficiency. And that is what is now called hidden hunger. So initially, when you talk about malnutrition, people just think about the kwashiorkor. But now somebody can look big and is malnourished, which is why it is called hidden hunger. You have to look and look again to understand that. And it is this channel that the third-party advocacy is focusing on to deal with issues of hidden hunger and, of course, the physical hunger. Because the physical hunger is easy. You would think just eat, and you're good. But how about the hidden hunger? Which is where food fortification is very, very important.
All right.
Which is the thing that the third-party advocacy is focusing on. Yes. Okay, so and to deal with this food fortification thing, so I mentioned earlier that there's a regulation. Now, the whole work around the third-party advocacy is that food producers comply with the provisions of the regulations about the food vehicles that should be fortified. Now, when we say food vehicles, people will be wondering, our vehicle that we drive? No. There are certain staple foods that in every home you go to, you will see. Rice, oil, sugar, salt, flour, and all. Every day, I ate bread this morning, and I'm sure
a whole lot of people.
So it is saying that if these selected food vehicles, which were not just selected from the top of government head, but through research that shows that everybody consumes this, that if these items are fortified, then people, Nigerians, will be eating healthier food and will look healthier. So that is what the third-party advocacy tends to push. But of course, when we say food producers comply, of course, there's a part for the government. They are the ones who enforce. They are the ones who monitor. They are the ones who certify so that they too do what they need to do. And of course, getting other people on board, other CSOs and media to laud it. Praise the companies that are already doing it. Encourage those who are not already doing it to do more. And then by praising organizations or food products that are already fortified, Nigerians understand and are able to make better choices when they go to get things, when they go to get items for consumption.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss
You're
Loveland.
welcome.
Today, you've heard it all from Miss Loveland Agbo Gabriel. She's talked about the importance of workforce nutrition in the workspace, and how workforce nutrition in the workplace can help reduce malnutrition amongst the active population. That's people between the ages of 15 to 65 years. Reduce malnutrition, not just in the active population, but also amongst people, pregnant women, reduce anemia in pregnant women, reduce malnutrition and stunted growth in young children. Thank you very much for being a part of today's program. We really appreciate your presence. So, to our audience, we also thank you for listening to today's interesting program. We hope you'd continue to listen to us and also help us in this advocacy around workforce nutrition. To listen to other interesting programs, please visit www.nesgroup.org if you want to learn more about workforce nutrition, and to also engage and listen to other interesting episodes of this interesting podcast. Visit www.nesgroup.org/podcast. Thank you, and see you once again.